British icons, Italian powerhouses, and the ultimate in German convenience. These cars may seem like a gearhead's dream, but they weren't good enough for the US government. Styled to mirror American designs and intended as a luxury model, the Nissan Skyline spent years as just another Nissan model until 1969, when the first performance-oriented GTR model was introduced with a 160-horsepower inline-six engine. The GTR grew into somewhat of a legend after that, but never once did one arrive in the port of Los Angeles with the steering wheel on the left. The R34 Skyline, produced from 1999 to 2002, shot up in popularity due to its inclusion in the Gran Turismo video game and the popular Fast and Furious movies.
Nissan Skyline, got him!
Nevertheless, R34 cars only became eligible for import to the United States in 2024. This is due to the US government's 25-year rule, which states, "A motor vehicle that is at least 25 years old can be lawfully imported into the United States without regard to whether it complies with all applicable DOT federal motor vehicle safety standards." This means that, as of January 2024, the R33 model Nissan GTS and GTR Skyline cars manufactured between January 1st, 1996 and June 30th, 1998 are now eligible for import. The Volkswagen Type 1 Beetle was one of the best-selling cars in the US for decades until it was pulled from the market in 1977. While the Beetle left the US in the 70s, it continued production in Mexico until 2004. Although the car generally remained unchanged over the years, it did receive updates here and there, including modernized interiors and improvements to the engine. Today, classic Beetles are rising in price. With 46 years having passed since the last one entered the country legally, enthusiasts may find it easier to find one built in Mexico more than 25 years ago. Those who import a legal Mexican Beetle can have the classic looks of the car with a handful of modern conveniences. That said, it will still be a few more years before the final 2004 edition is allowed to cross the Rio Grande. The Diablo is one of the great historical models from Lamborghini. Throughout the 1990s, Americans had no trouble purchasing one brand new from the dealer. The problem here comes down to a variant on the original Diablo created by a custom performance company in Germany. Vittorio Strosek has been working in auto design since the 70s and often works with manufacturers on new car designs and special editions. His company also does custom variations of select vehicles, including the Diablo. The Diablo Strosek is a unique machine with some clever changes to the styling that make it distinct from anything else. The usual headlights have been replaced with small dual headlamps with streamlined housings, rounded bumpers, and a modified spoiler. The car also had unique paint colors applied to them and were finished off with a pair of peculiar side view mirrors mounted high on the window frame. However, these headlights and mirrors did not fall within US guidelines, and nothing could be done to make the car legal for export, short of putting everything back to how it was when it left the factory. Some of these are now legal to import thanks to the 25-year rule, but those modified after 1998 still have a couple of years to wait. When the British Motor Company released the first Mini in 1959, it created a legend. The now iconic little car is a permanent part of pop culture and has also become a British icon, as recognizable as the Queen herself.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off!
The original Mini came with a 35-horsepower 1200cc engine that used a transverse front drive alignment, with the transmission and engine sharing the same oil, an idea later used by Lamborghini with the Miura. Sales in the US began in 1960 and continued until 1967. While weekend racers found the cars to be excellent on the track, however, the car's size was not well suited for American highways. Although sales ended in the US, the Mini continued in production for decades. Ownership changed hands until production was taken over by Rover. The Mini may have had some upgrades, but it remained essentially the same, even after BMW bought Rover in 1994. Under German ownership, however, losses stacked up and production ended in 2000 when BMW announced a modern successor. These original Minis were not certified for American roads, and so only as they hit the 25-year mark can they be brought over. One of Fiat's most successful cars of the 70s was the 126 model. It was produced in Poland, where it was also known as the Polski Fiat 126P. Due to the planned economic policy of Communist Poland, the 126P was one of the only cars the public could buy, and it became very popular for those fortunate enough to be able to afford one. Although popular in Eastern Europe, it never made it overseas, as the American government was not prone to allow business with Warsaw Pact countries, not to mention the fact that its two-stroke engine would surely have failed emissions testing. At least one 126P has a strong link to America, however. While filming a movie in 2016, Tom Hanks posted a photograph with one of these cars that ended up being seen by residents of the town where the car was made. A 1974 model was later restored and gifted to Hanks by a small town in Poland, which he graciously accepted. Hanks eventually sold the car, which he had signed on the left door panel, to raise money for charity. Horacio Pagani is a bit of a supercar legend, having played a role in the development of the Countach and a heavy hand in the development of the Diablo. When he identified changing trends in the manufacture of carbon fiber, however, Pagani left Lamborghini to establish his own company. He eventually gave us the Zonda, a masterpiece of automotive manufacturing. The Zonda was built from 1999 until 2017, with a total of 140 cars produced. They each use a specially engineered Mercedes-AMG V12 that puts out up to 760 horsepower. Every car is handcrafted from carbon fiber and aluminum in order to give it the best power-to-weight ratio possible. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Zonda sells these cars to customers for more than $1 million at the lower end. And even if you can afford one, you'll need to live outside of the United States to get it. Zondas have not been federalized for import and are only allowable under the government's show and display rule.